Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's live session from myself, Ambrose Blowfield, from here in Perth in glorious Western Australia. Beautiful sunshiny day. Today we are talking on behalf of the Sales Mastery Company. How do you maintain your energy? Now, in particular, we're talking about it from the context of you as a manager, but of course, this topic applies to any person in any part of their life. This is what we've learned from 19 years of coaching over 15,000 businesses in over 25 countries around the world, that if you don't maintain your energy management, the chances are you will not have the clarity of thought or your ability to think critically in order to make smart decisions. Now, of course, smart decisions as a manager or as a director or as a business owner tend to have massive repercussions on your team, on your clients, and in many cases on your suppliers as well. But if you're operating a role in the sales team or you're simply a sales team leader, this would have a massive impact on you because it affects your ability to think clearly, to resolve disputes or resolve issues, or to analyze great opportunities to get the higher conversion rate you can out of your customer base. Now, if you interacted with us during the last week or two through social media, you'll probably have this workbook in front of you. Hopefully you can see it on the screen in front of you right now. But if not, please send an email to admin@salesmasterycompany.com and request the topic of maintain your energy in management. That's what today's topic is about. And then that way you don't have to stress too much about making notes as we go. Now, the first question to think about from the perspective of is, how do you perform when you run on empty? Now, remember, no human, despite the amazing habits some of us might form at different times, no human is 100% great at this topic all of the time. You will have had moments in your life, whether that was in your education days or whether that's in your working life, where your energy and concentration levels dipped. And so it's important just to stop in once in a while and go, so what caused that? How did it make me feel? And what did I do to get back into the swing of things moving forward? Now, again, a lot of us can live in denial a little bit about that and maybe not step up and take too much self-responsibility, such as a classic saying from my mother growing up was, well, you might be burning the candle at both ends, which is a very odd expression, but essentially means, you're trying to kind of steal from one part of your life energy-wise, you're trying to put energy into another part of your life, and eventually you're going to run out of energy. Now, obviously, as we've covered off before with our paid customers and also through these live sessions that are free, we talk a lot about looking after your physiological well-being, because the more you have the right body, the more your brain is able to operate and make smart decisions. And there's a little bit of a catch-22 that happens, that when you're running on empty, when you're high stressed, you tend to reach for obviously sugar, you tend not to sleep that well, you reach for caffeine, you reach for short-term stimulants like energy drinks. You're accelerating yourself towards that drop off. So one thing to do to acknowledge and to become better at energy management is to recognize the times when you do get burnt out, when you do drop off the cliff, so to speak, and try to analyze the many things that led to that. A lot of people will look at the straw that broke the camel's back and they'll say, oh, well, look, you just worked too much last night, or you shouldn't have gone outside last week with wet hair, or you shouldn't have worked through the weekend, you should have taken the weekend off. And they're typically looking or self-analyzing at the end of the journey. And they're forgetting the fact that for many weeks or months before, you were disorganized, you didn't have prioritization going for you, you weren't resting right at weekends or in the evenings, you were getting highly stressed, you weren't sharing those stresses and challenges with your colleagues, you weren't communicating it to friends and family members to support you, and you weren't doing something proactive, possibly for a period of months, that led you to be at that moment that tipped you over the edge, so to speak. So it's really, really important to do that. Now, I've mentioned this before and I will keep mentioning it. We've been in business for 19 years. Our customers are all over the world. So living with high travel and high jet lag amounts has been a massive part of my life for the last 19 years, and also the life of my wife, Jo. And so the reality for us is, one thing that we have learned over that time is, of course, learning to manage jet lags. Hydration is arguably the most important thing to do to manage that, just like hydration is critically important for your digestive system to work and for your brain to work. So that's something all of us could do, whether we're traveling or not. but also the ability to switch off, rest and sleep, which of course in this day and age takes extra discipline because it involves putting your phone away, switching off your laptop, and maybe not switching on the TV at night. Just let your brain decompress. Now, for some people, they say, well, what do I do in that time? And it might be walk or swim. But for other people, it might simply be going back to the old school of putting on a lamp as opposed to a bright light overhead, artificial strobe light type thing, and actually switching off with a book. That's what we did as children typically, so we can go back to that as adults. So please look for things that you've done that maybe didn't work, and then make a note of those and share that with those around you, which could be colleagues, family members, or friends, to try to reduce the things that are not helping you. So let's think about a 12-point plan. As I go through today's topic, because these live sessions typically are short, sharp, and to the point, I'd like to challenge you to identify 3 of these that you believe you need to improve in your life, in your work life, or certainly as a manager, if you're taking a leadership role, remembering that you are role modeling effectively to your team. Now, I can remember early in my sales career, after I quit working in the UK and I moved to Sydney, Australia before the Olympics, to be there around the vibrancy of a great city and a great country in the build up to the greatest sporting event known to humans. The reality about that was it's a high pressure environment. And I can remember moving into that environment thinking, well, what can I learn from those people around me? And I observed that the first place that I worked, all of the managers worked very, very long hours. And then what I noticed was as some of the sales team members started to move up the food chain to become senior sales consultants, they started to stay later and later. Now, some of them were either engaged or newly married, and 1 or 2 of them even had young children, where time spent with that cherished person in your life is actually significant, particularly at that stage of your relationship. You know, pre-marriage, post-marriage, or the start of babies being around, it's important to be present. And I was seeing people starting to stretch their time. And a couple of times I had some awkward conversations with them saying, you know, what are you doing? Isn't now an important time to be home? You've got a wedding to plan. And isn't it important to be home? You just had your wedding, you're catching up afterwards. Isn't it important to be home? You've got a young child. And I'm not suggesting I'm perfect in this manner in any way, shape, or form. It's just that I observed the behavior of the senior managers started to become mimicked by the highly successful people. And of course, because they're highly successful, the junior people were starting to mimic their behavior as well. In some cases, it was skipping lunch breaks or only taking 5 minutes for lunch at their computer while reading emails. Well, 5 minutes is not a long time to digest food, let alone buy the food in the first place. So please start to observe behaviors. And if you are the manager, remember, you owe it to yourself, your family, and your friends to be good at this, but you owe it to those people who are mimicking your behavior without necessarily telling you that's what they're doing. So, number 1, keeping energy levels high often means we need to understand we have a purpose for our job. Now, that purpose could be to lead others. The purpose could be to solve business problems in the industry or make industry workplaces safer, or it could be to make businesses more profitable or give people job security. But you've got to come back to the basics of why you ultimately chose the job you did, or why you actually get a thrill doing the job you've got. If you keep remembering the purpose of you getting out of bed every day or every week is to serve others and to make a difference in the world or a difference in the industry or difference in your town or difference in your community, then that purpose can drive and maintain high energy levels. Number 2, clarity of goal setting, which of course is sales teams, which is where we spend most of our lives at the Sales Mastery Company, talking to sales teams. Clarity of purpose around goals per day, per week, per month, per quarter, or per year is also a great way to kind of re-energize yourselves. Now, whether that's to re-energize yourself out of fear of, if I don't work hard today with high energy and concentration, I'm nervous that I will fail, or it could be the other end, I'm motivated by the goal to achieve because something good comes from that goal. Goal setting is a great way to create energy. Staying focused is obviously easier said than done. And I've just come off a live coaching session with a company in Western Australia, talking to them about the fact that you need to have intrinsic motivation or internal motivation to help drive your focus. But if you struggle to stay focused by yourself, remember you're typically part of a team. Maybe talk to someone else in your team to get them to remind you once or twice a day, what should your key focuses be? At the end of your day, at the end of the week, it's not how many subjects did you tick off your list. It's about, did you do the ones that are most meaningful to your team, meaningful to your customers, or meaningful to your organization? So if you can't stay focused, get some extrinsic motivation from those around you. Number 4, removing distractions and doing so early. When I coach people around, serving customers in cold calling, the biggest thing I say to them is clear your desk. Just have your calendar, your list, and the phone. Just focus around that. Too often managers chop and change from one conversation to the other. They never succeed in thinking clearly on any one of those things. So removing and recognizing distractions is important. Remembering to manage your emotions. One of the best ways you can do that is to slow yourself down, breathe, talk things out, get out of the emotional state. If you live in the emotional state, it's going to drain you of energy and role model the wrong behavior for your team. Learning to cope with stress is important. And I'm not a big fan of saying to people, eliminate all forms of stress for your life, because stress can be very good at maintaining focus, but too much stress, of course, burns us out and sucks us of energy, short and long term. So learning to get adrenaline rushes from feeling under some pressure, but as the All Blacks talk about, walk towards that pressure in a good way, to embrace it in a good way. That might be something you need to talk through with some professionals over time, not necessarily HR professionals or psychology professionals, but just people who are experiencing coaching people and holding them accountable. Getting outside is also critically important. Often when people say to me, what can I do to lower my blood pressure, lower my stress levels, to increase my effectiveness as a manager or as a salesperson, it's take more breaks, but don't sit on your computer, don't sit on the screen, don't sit under artificial light. Get outside, get into the sunlight. Now, obviously, sunlight's a great way to produce vitamin D and directly physiologically lower your stress levels. Also, when you're walking around outside with greenery or nature, the chances are it'll be new sounds that you'll pick up on. That's good for mindfulness and calm. And again, despite the fact that it might take you 10 minutes to do this, or even 5 minutes to do this, that 5 minutes you'll probably more than pick up in the increase in motivation or the increase in productivity when you return to your desk. Now, the most common option that I get is when I talk to people in, say, Canada or the UK or Ireland, is they'll say to me something like, well, what if it's not sunny? Well, the beauty is that natural light, even through cloud cover, is always going to be good for you. It's not as good as sunlight, but it is still good for you. So please get outside if you can. Likewise, leverage your personality profile. If you're a compliance profile person, it's useful for you to spend time problem solving because it gives you energy. If you're a steady profile person, it gives you energy to support others and see others do well. If you're an influence profile person, you get energy from being around positive people. If you're a dominant profile person, you get energy from winning. So understand your personality profile as we coach in our sales manager programs, as well as coaching in our sales mastery programs, so that you can spend some of your working day operating within your natural style or profile, because that boosts your energy. The reverse is also the case. Once you understand your personality profile, hopefully to more depth than simply, are you dominant, influence, steady, or compliance based, is actually understand, well, what's the opposite of your profile? Because the more time you spend sucked into that area or that space for hours doing things that are not natural to you, without a break, without going outside, and without staying hydrated, that's going to suck you of energy and motivations. And of course, it can create a very quick spiral that others are going to pick up on. Please make sure that you finish your days or finish your week with a win. So let's imagine you've spent the whole day in HR problems, talking to your team, or maybe resolving disputes with suppliers, or maybe handling difficult customers on behalf of your sales team. If you've been fighting or scrapping through the day or through the week, it's important to finish with a win, so that the last thing you do before you get in the car to drive home or get onto the train to go home, you're stopping and thinking, you know what, I can have some wins. So if it typically is a long, hard day or a long, hard week, I'd recommend scheduling time with your favorite colleague who picks you up and makes you feel good, or putting out a phone call to your favorite customer who always puts a smile on your face. Maybe even calling a family member or friend and finding out that the work you did for them at the weekend when you volunteered at their home, how did that impact their family? Try to make sure you're going to finish the day with a win, as opposed to going from highly stressful situation to highly stressful situation and straight to home into your evenings, or worse still, stressed into your home for the whole weekend and not finishing with a win. Last couple of ones that keep in mind is, just remember that everything we do in life, either we learn from it or we win from it. Those really are the two opportunities that we have. Whether you're coaching a staff member, making a sale, dealing with a supplier, you're either going to learn from it by listening or you're going to win from it. Those are the only two outcomes. And it's important to remember that that growth mindset drives our energy management and drives our motivation. And then finally, beating yourself up when things don't go to plan or when you make mistakes is of no service to you. It's of no service to your energy management, and it's actually of no service to anybody. Accepting that you did something wrong is an important lesson, but dragging yourself down with guilt is a terrible trait that's only going to suck you of energy and actually start to undermine your resilience long term. So, in summary for today, whether you work in sales, whether you work in finance, admin, operations, or business leadership, whatever your role is in life, there's going to be pressure, especially in a leadership or management role, or especially in a sales or marketing team. So, understanding this within yourself is going to help you take responsibility for your own energy management. And as we coach teams in our sales academy and other things around the world, this is a topic you're going to have to keep coming back to, and you're going to want to role model this to every member of your team around you. So ultimately, at the end of the day, I encourage you to go through 12 different topics for today's subject. And I really want to encourage you to take action from today. So like all things in life, please make sure that you take action. If you haven't seen the workbook or seen the slides from today, please make sure that you message us, admin@salesmasterycompany.com. Today's topic was maintain your energy in management. Be sure to take action. Bye for now.